this dynamic is really the first tool, and um, and I think I know that our tendency in the West is to think, I know what's going on here. You know, I can take it from here. Just give me the keys to the car, I'll drive it. Or I don't know that we do it with a plane, but I got this. I know what to do with this. And um, I want to say something about how I look at this dynamic and how I see it as a tool. Um, One thing is that it could be looked at as that I'm up here and the burden's on me to say great stuff, um, honest things, things of fine vibration and like that. And from my point of view, the burden is equal. Not like half of it's on me and half of it's out there. It's like half of it may be on me and half of it's on you. Half of it's on me and half of it's on you. Just like we're listening to a story, Jules doing her part, right? Bob Dylan's doing his part, but it doesn't do anything if you as the receiver aren't going along for the ride. It doesn't mean believing it. But it does mean not talking to yourself, which that alone is a undertaking to not talk to yourself. I don't know if you know the degree of the problem there, but so there were beautiful lines in those songs, just skipping reels of rhyme, just beautiful poetry and heartfelt things. But if you're thinking like, well, I don't like his voice, yeah, I think it's a little too loud, it's a little too soft, I've heard that song before, well, I know this song. All of that is in the way of getting the nutrients, the minerals, the inspiration, the heart that's there. And maybe as it should be, that there's some protection on a fairy tale or on a poem. Your eyes can read the words, but you haven't read the poem, or you haven't heard the poem, or you haven't felt it until it's not even come under like surrender, but it's be passive and go on the magic carpet ride. And so I can appreciate your situation as it is when I'm sitting there, that I'm not Bob Dylan and I'm not Jewel, and I sometimes don't complete my sentences, and I'll say the word like way too many times, and I get the challenge in that. And I'm not just talking about me, I'm saying whoever sits up here. But I know from personal experience that the people who have been around Justin and who have explored these tools and have lived in this dynamic, they understand some things. And they don't understand everything, or maybe there's glitches in how it fits together, but they understand some really crucial fucking shit that you would want to know. If you had any inkling, you'd want to give it your best to really just come under it and let that waterfall fall on you. Like a fairy tale, you can read it again and you'll get more out of it, and you can read it again and you get more out of it. But when you're reading it now is the only time that really counts. You want to get what you can. And so as much as you can set aside talking to yourself about plans for the future or criticisms or whatever, try and do that. It could only benefit you. Okay, I've got a little story. I love stories. This one's short, but ever since I was a kid, it was like story time was like the best time of the whole kindergarten. Better than toys, it was like story time. Okay, this is a little story here, but so I was leaving my bus today to my bedroom is a school bus, and there's a window in the front, the front door that's, it used to make the sound, now it's just, manual. There's a glass pane there, and oftentimes this time of year in spring, especially if I'm running that wood stove hot, their wasps get attracted and they'll be in the front door by the, people know. There's a glass, and so the wasp is like stuck and it's trying to get out of the glass, and the door opens in, so you'd be surprised how long it can take a wasp to figure out how to get out. And so I'm going to go for a walk, and there's this wasp there, and it's kind of like right at eye height. And they never fly this way. They're always trying to go towards the light. And, you know, I think like, shit, I'm going to forget that it's there. I'm going to come in. It's going to get, you know, whatever. Well, maybe 6 months ago, I was raking some leaves on this property, and I was talking to a friend, and I picked them up, and there was a hornet's nest like inside, which, you know, I didn't know as I was like talking, and then they let me know. So I got, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 bites, like stings, and it was like, holy shit, you know, really hurt. My hand swelled up. And so that was kind of like playing in the back of my mind as I'm looking at this wasp, and I was thinking like, the shoe rack is right there, you know, and I'm like, it's this beautiful little creature, and the shoe rack's right there, and I'm like, okay, you know, get a glass. So I look over, and all my glasses are clean. I'm like, I don't want to fucking go have to wash a glass, you know. I'm not like share glasses with wasps, and so I look back, and I'm gonna whack this thing, you know. And then I flash on something that I've been reading in 2001. It's a book by Arthur C. Clarke. Probably everybody's watched the movie. Is anybody not familiar with 2001? Okay, great. Okay, not so great. It's a really like epic story about the kind of, you could say, I want to say the evolution of man, but it goes from the time of apes on Earth, where they're just trying to survive and they don't have any thinking capacity, and these monoliths, these like perfect stone structures appear, and they give humanity a boost to become more sentient beings like that. But it goes way into the future, which is 2001. At the time it was written, like, I think in the 50s. And so the part I'm thinking of is, there's this spaceship Discovery, and there are two guys are on this spaceship, and there's another 3 people in hibernation, like frozen to be woken up in 6 months or something. And these 2 guys, Frank Poole and David Bowman, they're going to slingshot around Jupiter, and they're 500 million miles from home, and it really gives you the sense of space and time. And there's this asteroid that goes by them, and it's like, I don't know, like 100,000 miles away or 200,000 miles away, whatever it is. It's way the fuck over there, and it's going really fast. And they're by the window, and they watch it, and it's the closest thing that's going to be next to them in years, you know. And they're watching this, you know, and they're like back in space, and it really gives you this feeling of just how immense. I was going to say this playground. It's really not the right feeling. It's like how immense space is, and how infrequent matter is even there. Like they're going through meteor, kind of like an asteroid belt, and they don't have to be that careful, because there's so much space between the asteroids, even where matter's dense, is like the likelihood that they would even cross the trajectory of an asteroid is super unlikely, that they'd even pass the orbit of it, let alone be there at the same time that the asteroid is there. So you get this feeling of like, wow, these guys are really out there, you know? So that's just matter, let alone life, you know? Like, life is a whole nother thing. And like, I just had this flash as I was looking at this wasp with shoe like 6 inches from my hand, like what a miracle. Here's this thing that can fly, and it has like multiple eyes and works together in a swarm, and you know, and it was like, oh, you know, I think I know where a dirty cup is, you know. And it was like boom, and the little guy flew away. And I also had this flash of in the book in 2001, this you know, I don't feel like I have to be that careful, because the book is so amazing, and it'll blow your mind whether you've heard some details or not. But this David Bowman is alone, and he's taken through some wormhole, and he's just like, he doesn't know where the fuck he's going. He's just going past suns, and he knows, like, my little capsule that I'm in should be burning up right now, and then he's like taken somewhere else, and he's given views of what's going on in that there's a benevolent force that's like giving him a tour, and it's somehow in putting a protective shield around him, and he's protected next to stars and next to all sorts of things, and he's kind of like, like, holy shit, and then he wakes up, and he's in this kind of hotel room, and he's in his space pod, and he's in his space suit, and like everything looks like super normal, which I thought was just brilliant. Like, there would be nothing more fucking like crazy than like a super normal like Earth situation, right? And so he's like, and he basically, like, his astronaut training takes over, and he knows that he doesn't really even think about it. It's like check dial 3, and he goes through all his protocols, just because it's like so much a part of being in space, and how he's been like taught to, if it says over and over in this book that, like, if you don't, the smallest slip up, there's no tolerance for a small slip up when you're in a vacuum of space, So he kind of does his protocols, and then he opens the latch of this space pod, and he's walking around like in this super normal hotel room in the middle of like hundreds of light years away from Earth, and he's just kind of like, his mind is totally fucking blown. And then he has this realization after he checks things out. He picks up the phone, and there's no dial tone, and he opens up food, and it's not quite right, but it looks appealing or whatever. But he goes through all these things, and then he realizes anything that was benevolent enough to shield me from the suns that I just went past, that took me light years to be in this position, would have to have figured out the atmosphere that I need to breathe, And it like that, and he recognizes that he's the ambassador of humans. Like, he's the only human that's ever traveled this far and met this intelligence that's meeting him, that's caring for him, and he feels the responsibility of that. Like, whatever impression he makes on this seemingly benevolent force, he's making it for everybody back in Earth. And he unlocks his helmet, and he takes it off, and he breathes, and it's just like I don't know, it's the impression of something like let's see, try and string it together, because I have a feeling for it. Like, I was listening to these songs this morning before I came here that was saying things like, we're all love, and it's just like, I know it to be true, whether with drugs or without drugs. I know deep down the energy that keeps us alive is all love. But then you're looking at the surface of things, you're looking at the stock market, you're looking at the wars all over the planet. It's like kind of hard to believe we're all love, you know what I mean? But underneath it, at the core, it's before we're even it is love. It's that which gives us breath, that which gives us life, is, you could call it love. It's like the sun. It gives off energy, and we receive it, and we receive our thoughts and our emotions, and we receive it all. And in that gesture of taking off the helmet and setting it aside, there was an acknowledgement in my own feelings of like, right, like, kind of like, you can relax now. That there is an energy that keeps this all going. And I mean, that might seem like a basic concept, but I don't know. I think that we live in a world that we're so surrounded by this car, you'll get more mileage from how you know, plug it in, you'll get to go further, and you won't have to spend as much on gas. And you know, that's just cars, not to mention phones, not to mention places to live, not to mention just all of it is like, how can we have control? Like, get on top of the situation, get the health you need, get the clothes you need, get the friends you need, get the flexibility you need. And you know, I don't think that me saying these words, or really anybody saying these words, can convince, can go, like, move us off the position of, yeah, well, yeah, but I'm going to take my vitamins, you know, morning and night, and I'm going to you know, I'm still going to put gas in my car. I'm still, you know, that the force, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I think remembering this something that's closer to the root, that we don't give ourselves breath, that we can experience, that we're filled up and it goes out, and it comes in and it goes out, that we can, that is an experienceable thing. And I had this experience the other day, you know, that I've heard Justin say this idea that humans are puppets. And I've always kind of, that one hasn't gone down my throat so well, you know, like puppets, man, that sounds like the worst possible thing. You're a fucking puppet, you know? I mean, that's like, it's like worse than a follower. I mean, you're like, and I had this, I just heard it and experienced it differently than like, oh, that's a beautiful experience, you know, that we are receivers of forces, whether they're paranoid thoughts or they're exploratory ideas. We are receivers and of thoughts, of movement, and that can be a beautiful experience, to be a receiver of a breath, as opposed to thinking like, I got this, I know what to do, I've heard this before, I'm on top of it, give it to me, I'll show you. That it could actually be a beautiful experience to recognize our puppetness. I know that's a hard sell, because it took me probably, I mean, I'm still in process, but it was like, it goes against so much of, I can do what's never been done, I can win what's never been won. It's against like the American ideal or the American ethos, but there is something that's so about it. Like, we're born into this world and the air is here, like the right mixture of air. We get these spacesuits, we get these senses that are like fucking dialed in, that are, they're gorgeous, you know, to be able to experience the world, whether it's a flower or it's a smell of garbage, really. That you can interact with the world in as a unique individual. And the tools have helped me to trip over that experience, that it's okay, it's better than okay, it's a beautiful experience to be a puppet. And I feel a little lame, like I'm trying to explain that, but this idea of we're the doer, not only is it faulty, but it's so fraught with like the maintenance of that concept. Well, I'm deciding the burden of that. I'm the one who's going to figure it out. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to do it. I'm going to da-da-da. And it's like, if it was just a hypothesis that we're puppets, it would be like, well, there are different forces that are jockeying to deal with this situation. You know, do you fix the car? Do you not fix the car? Do cook dinner tonight? Do you not cook dinner tonight? What do you cook dinner? Do you cook with somebody? Not with somebody? You know, just all of those things could be looked at as forces like strings that are pulling. And when we think, oh, we decide, it's one string, one string, one out. And being aware of that can actually be a relaxing thing, because you're becoming aware of these forces that are moving you, and it's not so it's all me. I'm like not so solid.